Hello there, boys and girl. Today I wanted to look at a couple of games where I think my personal decisions had a significant impact in how the game turned out and explain why I did what I did again. So basically, Darok has excuses part 2. So in this first one I'm soloing in a cookie cutter fox. I have optics, sight interface for the maximum view range and experimental propellant for missile damage, and then top speed and turret traverse rig. As a commander I'm obviously running Sabrina, as she is pretty much the only viable choice for Fox, unless you're feeling really experimental. The first half of this battle doesn't really have anything too special in it. I'm basically doing what at least one scout of the team from this spawn should do, since no one else is going to do it. If you actually take a look at the minimap, you see that my team is having significant trouble finding their way out of the spawn. It could help me out here, since I might have some fire support for change. Getting spotted on the way isn't usually a huge problem, but I slow down just in case. And I'm kind of rewarded by this M68-3 not reacting properly. He just kind of donates himself by staying sideways to me. That's not really a route you want to take with a slow MBT. I'm sure many of you watching are aware how powerful this position is for a scout, but some of you probably also know that this can be pretty easily countered by, for example, rushing to C6 with an autocannon, or positioning your tank destroyer in such a manner that you can shoot at the places where I can peek up. Strong anti-scout vehicles like VFM, Stingray 2, Warrior are probably the best vehicles to do this, but you can pretty much achieve the desired results in less optimal vehicles as well if your team is lacking those, or if the drivers don't want to do their job. The main point is to catch the scout before he gets to this little cove here, because there's actually a lot of cover here, or to move up in such a manner that the scout's playground is restricted without exposing yourself to the potential hill snipers. Now it gets quite tricky, especially if the scout has fire support from the refinery side as well. The Fox's gun depression is slightly limiting my ability to do damage here, and I don't want to use missiles yet, at least to low priority targets in case I need them later on. And I end up trading pretty bad with this BMD, could have definitely used those hit points later on. At least I damage him enough to make him run away, and my team cleans him up pretty soon after. My team is pushing up nicely, so I must keep my eyes relevant and move up enough to get spots for them. We are in a slight hurry since we have next to nobody on the other side of the map and we don't want to get capped out, so we must pressure this side fast. Normally I probably wouldn't waste missiles to low tier MBTs unless I really have to, but I want to keep the pressure and pace. Sacrificing some of my very limited stock of missiles here forces them to either pull back, which gives us ground, or force them to take damage, which pretty soon would also give us ground, you know, in the sense of them being smoking wrecks and all. Still, my main function is to operate as a spotter, and secondary one would be to hold on to my last bit of hit points, or the other way around. Dead spotter is a useless spotter after all. They seem to be on the retreat, and once the BMD dies on the way to their spawn, I move up a little bit in order to keep the MBT spotted as much as I can. So now I'm approaching the key moment in this battle. The fight on this side is all but won, but we have next to nothing on our spawn, while the enemy has a significant portion of their top tier tanks pushing there. My first option is to keep pushing on this side, hoping and trusting that we get 3 cappers before they do, which, to be honest, looking at the minimap spread of forces, does not seem very likely. My second choice is to turn back and floor it, trusting that my team members attacking here will eventually win, and that I can, together with our few defenders, slow them down long enough to secure the round. The situation becomes a slightly more interesting one as our few defenders manage to die while I'm contemplating this, so the choice is obvious: turn back. It might already be too late. Can you imagine how sad it would be if someone was bad enough to lose a round because they can't drive a Fox? I'm pretty sure from now on I can. Luckily, Fox is still pretty fast, and now that I've cleared the difficult terrain, I think I can make it just in time. Together with the Zalo, I hope we create a multiple target environment that lets at least one of us get the reset. But to be honest, I think one reset might not be enough here. My first immediate goal is to get behind that rock in front of me, and despite the Zalo spotting the ERC, I can't afford to waste any attention on him. Only the red tanks in the cap are in any way relevant right now, The ERC peak gives me enough time to reload, but doesn't exactly solve the situation here, and now they know where I am. Having no gun depression limits my choices quite a bit, so I decided to go with the missile, firing it from the cover and guiding it towards the first target that I see. I get pretty lucky with the Bagel missing his second shot, and that BMP actually had a sizable amount of their cap points, so situation is not quite as critical anymore. In a situation like this, it's really easy to get stuck in the must go now mindset, so I take a basically needless risk peeking next to the rock, but at least I managed to reset the Bagel as well without dying. So the situation should be pretty much resolved now, right? We have 3 people in their cap, they have no defenders left, and I have managed to reset, and my reinforcements are reasonably close as well. I can just sit behind this rock and wait for someone else to engage, so that their attention turns away from me. Funny enough, our cappers decide that they want to get in on the damage and start heading back. Meanwhile, the WZ clearly wants to avenge my decapping shenanigans and wants to murder me. There's not much I can do to stop him, so I just wait behind the rock for him to get close and make my exit to the right. I pick off the ERC that's fighting the other guys, but the Bagel finds the kill shot he's been looking for. Oh well, who cares about survival rating anyway. So we won the fight, but we're losing the battle, and me coming back to reset I think was clearly the right move. If I had kept on pushing, hoping to get on their cap fast enough, they would have stolen the win from us. In a situation like this, it's important to keep a cool head and remind yourself that decapping is more valuable than kills or damage itself, and tunnel visioning and not seeing that you need to go back in the right place at the right time probably loses a lot of games for many people. Quite nice damages as well, but such is the way of the fox. Okay, in this next bit I'm playing the actually balanced tier 7 tank destroyer Lav-600. It's not really so depressing anymore, but it has a pretty bad reputation, mostly I suspect because of the Centauro 120 being the very definition of overpowered. The only problem I have with this tank is the lack of retrofits, which really cuts into your options. You're really forced to go with something that gives you accuracy due to the miserable gun, and you can't really play to the strengths of this vehicle, which is camo and vision, over the Centauro. So I'm running this with chrome barrel and hit points, commanded by Sabrina. Main battle tank commanders would probably be functional, but I think you might as well then play Centauro 120. I initially positioned myself quite far back, which in hindsight is a mistake due to the lack of accuracy. I can't really reliably penetrate any of my targets, and I spend about the first 5 minutes of the battle bouncing and missing while my team melts all around me. The Lav-600 would be a very competitive tank if they gave it a universal retrofit and a technology retrofit, for example. Another thing worth noting is that the heat round is actually quite usable on this, unlike in Centauro, so I have way too many of them. Our team is getting pushed back on all fronts, and our 9 line is basically melting while I'm being useless and wasting ammo on highly unlikely targets. Just before our 9 line gets completely wrecked, the enemy tank destroyers start to play aggressively on the middle. I would prefer to shoot heat at the Centauro, of course, but they don't really offer me any good targets, so this basically causes me to fumble my ammo choices and have the wrong kind of ammo for the wrong targets at the wrong times, which, like you can see here, is an extremely effective way of minimizing your impact. The only good thing I can say I've done is holding on to my hit points, so while not participating in the battle is not really a winning strategy, at least I've saved some resources for the endgame. Okay, I get it, it's pretty far-fetched, but hey, the game isn't lost before it's lost. Now that the enemies have cleared the 9 line, they're actively moving up, and this spawn location is just about to be overrun. And brawling against better tanks with superior numbers doesn't really sound like a good idea to me, so it's time to relocate. In fact, I think it was time to relocate like 2 minutes ago, considering the staggering amounts of damage I've been able to do from here. At this point I've had the applied DPM of 200, which is that bit low for a top tier vehicle. Despite the odds being stacked massively against us at this point, there are still a couple of things working out for us. First, the enemies are mainly on one side. Second, they are probably all in the endgame damage farming mode by now. And third, we actually have the vision superiority now that our weasel killed theirs. The first priority in a situation like this is not to get swarmed. This is why main battle tanks, even good ones, are actually pretty weak when they are facing superior numbers. And AFVs, TDs, light tanks can actually run away much more, drawing out the engagement. Being forced to fight one fight against 8 enemies is significantly harder than fighting 8 1v1s. The 1-2 line is quite open now after my Weasel buddy killed the low hit point Leopard 2, and the lone Centauro 120 is in such a hurry to farm endgame damage that he YOLO straight into him right after he reloaded. And I get the finishing shot. Our situation is considerably less grim now that all the enemies are on the same side, giving us the room to maneuver. Normally I would probably outweight my spots, but now I must move. The Centauro doesn't pay attention to me, and I get to pick him off with the cost of one hit from the Leopard. Because I'm in a hurry I must trade hit points, but against the Leopard 2AV that's not really a problem. Luckily he suddenly gets interested in the Weasel and turns his side, making his end faster. Losing my commander is inconvenient, but as long as the Weasel stays alive it's not really a problem as I don't have to spot for myself. I take an optimistic shot towards the one-shot enemy and set up an ambush on this mountain, hoping for some free damage. Getting spotted makes artillery a real danger, but I still remain for a second to get the free shot, and sure enough that Challenger gives me his belly. That clicker probably shouldn't have reminded me of his existence, as there is absolutely nothing in between us. With no immediate dangers, I just drive towards the artillery position, not giving him any chance to get cover or hide. The danger of getting swarmed is pretty much over now, and the next phase is mostly about spotting and hunting and ambushes. The biggest problem right now is that they control our spawn and flag. The Weasel keeps on delivering by catching this Centauro in the open, which results in a quick kill. I set up an ambush on this ridge hoping that the other Centauro would come after me, but he's smart enough not to do so. The biggest danger for us right now is the Centauro appearing from behind us, but that's not really a likely move for him to make. The situation is slightly awkward despite us having the advantage now. I have all the hit points and Weasel has all the view range, so I'm waiting for him to do something and he is probably waiting for me to do something. I pinged the central mountain hoping he would go there, as it is the most obvious and the strongest spotting location on the map, but luckily the bad guys decide that they've had enough of the chase and telegraph their location and intentions quite clearly. Now this is very good for us, I just need to take up firing positions and hope that the Weasel can go and spot. And with good crossfire I think we should be able to decap without much risk for ourselves. The timer jumping down tells us that they're both there and we don't have to really worry about the Centauro laying an ambush somewhere. From up here I can quite comfortably cover most of the cap, and all I need is the Weasel to stop being so indecisive and just go see where the bad guys are without exploding. Which is what he eventually does. This is right about when I started to worry about my ammunition. At this range, heat is very unreliable even against the Centauro, and the hopes of penetrating the Challenger are slightly depressing to say the least. The Weasel does a good job spotting the Challenger and even gets him to turn his turret for me, so my first shot is a penetration. He tries to blind fire back, but isn't even close. And then the Weasel sees the Centauro, so I obviously go with the more dangerous, softer target. And he doesn't stand much of a chance, but now I've wasted 2 precious AP rounds on him. The Challenger shows enough of his side to expose the weak strip on his upper hull, but I fail to hit it. And the next shot I aim for his rear turret, but at this range the flight time is so long that he turns his turret away, causing the shot to miss completely. Now I only have 1 AP round left, and I'm not gonna waste it at this range. My next move is most likely going to cost me some hit points, but as long as the Weasel is awake, we should be fine. The poor frontal gun depression takes its toll here, and the challenger has enough time to turn his side, but a shot goes into his oblique armor instead, doing nothing. I aimed the second shot at his engine deck, which has a slight green part, but I hit his turret instead, so now I've pretty much successfully used all my hit points and must run away, hoping not to get killed. That could have gone better. At least the weasel managed to do some damage from behind. I figure there's nothing to lose, so I load my last AP, and the weasel distracts the challenger. So I go for a flank, hoping he shows either side of his turret or rear of his tank, but the rocks block my shot a little bit, so I go in for a suicide shot, hoping that I penetrate and force him in such a position that the weasel can kill him. And he just keeps on delivering. If people keep this up, I'm gonna have to start expecting things from random weasels, and I'm not sure if I'm ready for that just yet. So, even after the horrible start, I started playing the game at the last possible moment, and with the help of the weasel we managed to pick off the over-aggressive enemies one by one. So was there a point to this? I guess keep moving, don't give up. I don't know, I hope this was entertaining for you at least. I'll see you guys in the next one, thanks for watching.